Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this show is Let's Live with Thurman Greco. And I am here this evening to thank you for watching this program. We come to you on Channel 23, Educational Television in scenic downtown Woodstock, New York. And this show has been running almost 20 years, and it started off as it began as a show that was highlighting political activities in the area. And then, of course, it has morphed through the years into other things. But it is very true that when it comes to educational TV, Channel 23 is excellent, and it is a good way to bring information to a new resident. So we are happy that you are watching this program, and we have a really nice guest here with us this evening because I think this is your first chance to come here.
It is, yes.
So I'm going to ask you to tell our audience your name and tell us why you're here.
So my name is Jeff Collins. I am the co-chair of the Woodstock Democratic Committee. I'm also the vice chair of the Ulster County Democratic Committee. I'm on the State Democratic Committee, and I am running for county legislature in the 23rd district. So in November, I'll be on the ballot unopposed, so in theory I should win.
We can hope.
We can hope.
We can hope.
Yeah.
And so we are here because you are here with the Woodstock Democratic Committee.
Correct.
And my introduction with the Woodstock Democratic Committee was as soon as I hit town, I read an article in the Woodstock Times about a meeting, and I found the meeting, and I showed up, and I sat in the audience, and I was the only one there. And it wasn't long until I was coming to all of the meetings, and I had a partner. I had a partner we sat on the front row together, and it was Michael Paycutt. And of course, many people living in Woodstock now unfortunately do not know Michael Paycutt. But it was such a wonderful experience because I came into Woodstock not knowing that much about the community. And after a year of sitting on the front row, I knew it all. There were some blank spaces in the landscape, but I knew it all.
That's really great. Yeah.
And I also, because you're here as a co-chair, through the years, I had a couple people ask me, well, what does the Woodstock Democratic Committee do?
So the Woodstock Democratic Committee is really a subcommittee of the county committee, representing the Democrats in Woodstock and working to get out the vote in Woodstock to ensure that our county candidates win, our state candidates win, and even our national candidates can win. So it's bringing information about the Democratic Party, bringing the issues that are important to this town, to the county, making sure that we're represented. Technically, we're all of us on the committee are elected representatives of the Democrats in Woodstock. People don't understand that, but we are technically elected officials on the county committee. There often isn't an election because there's never a challenger. But technically we're elected officials, and technically we represent the Democrats in this town, in the county.
Well, I think it's very important because the Woodstock Democratic Committee has an educational facet.
Yeah.
The Woodstock Democratic Committee introduces these candidates to our community.
Yeah.
And because the Woodstock Democratic Committee is very effective in doing this, we have good turnouts every year.
We have the highest turnout, close to the highest turnout in the county on a consistent basis. And that turnout is incredibly important because we have such a large population of Democrats. I think we have the third largest population of Democrats in the entire county by town. That's under, there's Saugerties has more, and of course Kingston and New Paltz, so we're fourth. But we have a lot of Democrats, a huge plurality of Democrats. That difference in the Democrat versus Republican vote has made significant differences in our ability to elect officials. I was saying earlier that 4 years ago in the DA race, when Dave Clegg won by 77 votes, well, he won Woodstock by 1,800 votes. Those votes would put him in office. So that's what we continue to need to do, is to get the turnout, to engage the voters, and to make them aware of how important their vote is for our democracy, for our representation, for what we do in this county.
Well, and what the committee does, and I've used this word before, is really educational.
Yeah.
There were several meetings where the guest speaker would be an elected official.
Yep.
Who was coming back asking Woodstock for help.
Yeah.
Because there was an issue. There was something that needed to be resolved. And he felt like if he came to Woodstock, we would support him.
Right.
And Woodstock always came through. We were good. We were good for our word. If we told you we were for you, then you had to work, but you knew you had a support.
That's great.
You had a base, which was an important thing.
Yeah.
So what is our election situation now?
So as we all know, we had a primary, which was a very high turnout primary. We had a set of candidates that kind of were together on one slate. I'm going to call those they're all Democrats, right? So they're all Democrats at the primary. So we had the supervisor, Bill McKenna, running against Bennett Ratcliffe, and we had 4 people run for town council. Anula, we had Laura Rickey, we had Michael Veach, and we had Linda Lover. And all of those guys ran, and they kind of formed 2 slates, I'll call it. There was a slate with Bill, Anula, and Laura, and then the slate with Bennett, Linda, and Michael. And it kind of worked that way. And the slate really of Bill, Anula, and Laura won the election. They got the most votes, and they became the Democratic nominees. Now, interestingly enough, the other 3 candidates had all been endorsed by the Working Families Party. And that meant that the Working Families Party had worked to get them on the ballot in November under their party label. So you'll see them still on the ballot again in November under the Working Families Party. Technically, when they lost the Democratic primary, they could have withdrawn from the Working Families Party. In fact, they were asked by the Working Families Party to withdraw from the ballot because the WFP, Working Families Party, doesn't really want to challenge Democrats in the general election. They want to challenge Democrats maybe during the primary, but they don't want to challenge them in the general election because they don't feel like that's their position, that's what they want to do. They feel like they're a coalition party, not an independent party, not a separate party, or they don't want to challenge the Democrats.
And they want to offer support.
They want to offer support, absolutely. So they asked those candidates to remove themselves from the Working Families line. They chose not to, and so that's why they're on the ballot in November. There was a recent statement by the Working Families Party that they do not support the candidacy of those 3 people, even though they're on the ballot under the party, because they can't get them off.
The ballots have already been printed.
Ballots have been printed, and by law, the decision of whether to stay on is up to the candidate, not the party, after they lost the Democratic primary. So it was up to them, not the party, to take them off. So we'll have this candidate, we'll have basically a redo almost of the primary. And as the Democratic Committee, we support the Democratic Party. That's our job, that's our role, that's what we do. And of course, 2 of the members of the Democratic Committee were Linda Lover and Bennett Ratcliffe, who are still running under the Working Families Party against Democrats. And because they're running against Democrats, it's inappropriate for them to be on the Democratic Committee. So they resigned from the party roles and are now running basically Working Families only.
So they're running Working Families. Will they be on the Woodstock Democratic Committee if they win?
They would have to get elected back in.
Okay, so they really are not on the Woodstock
not on the
Democratic Committee
No,
anymore?
they're not. They've
Okay.
resigned from that entirely. So
Now, that's two, but we talked about three.
so Michael Veach was not on the Woodstock Democratic Committee, so we didn't have to.
Oh, okay, so that just didn't apply for
It just
him.
didn't apply for him.
So actually, they're kind of over here. So this
Yeah.
is looks like an administrative move more than anything else.
Pretty much. I mean, it's, yeah, technically they're on the ballot. To me, they ran a race. They lost the race.
Yeah,
And they ran as Democrats and lost to other Democrats. And, races and elections have consequence. And, what I've always said is, look, you run in a primary against another Democrat, you challenge that person as much as you can, you do it fairly, you do it on issues, you do it on policy, you don't do personal attacks, and at the end of all that, like I say, you go to a bar and you meet him and you shake his hand or her hand and you say, congratulations, you won and I'll support you.
yeah,
That's how I think it should be done.
uh-huh,
Democracy is about having people make a choice. When they make that choice, you honor the choice. And this Woodstock voters made the choice.
This is not a beginner's race.
No.
This is really a race for people who have some experience voting and who have some knowledge of the community.
Yeah.
How is this race being absorbed and viewed and accepted by the new residents that we have in Woodstock?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I know the entire answer to that. I mean, a lot of people don't follow politics until just before an election, right? They're not necessarily cognizant throughout the year of who's doing what or what's happening. This particular race is very public. I get calls from people in Gardner and Lloyd, it's like, hey, what's happening in Woodstock? I mean, it's all over the papers because of what's happening in Woodstock. And it's very contentious. And that contentiousness is raising awareness, but not necessarily raising awareness in a way that supports democracy. It's just creating more noise. And it's not looking at the issues of who's going to be able to do what when they get elected. And, so the Democratic Committee did not endorse any of the candidates before the primary. We chose not to. We never had a vote to endorse. We chose not to. It was our position, at least my position, to leave it up to the voters and say, these are the candidates, you pick them, and we're going to support the winners of that. And that's what we're doing. And speaking personally, not now as the chair or as a member of the Democratic Committee, I supported the people that happened to win the election, win the primary. And I still support them. And I support them because I think they'll do the best job. I think that Bill has been a very, very competent manager of the city, of the town. I think that that's his job. It's an operations job, right? It's about getting things done, getting the bills paid, getting the streets clean, making sure that things happen like that. So operationally, I think he's done a great job. He's created a lot of committees. He's involved a lot of citizens in looking at how to make things better. He's created a task force to work with short-term rentals. He's created a task force to look at housing. He's created all of these advisory committees and advisory boards to help look at policies and look at laws and look at how Woodstock is operating and making sure it does the best job possible. So I really support that. Laura's been on the council, the town council for I think 3 terms now, and I think she's done a great job. She's on a lot of committees and does a lot of work. And Anula is, a great person who has done a lot of work in the. She's chair of the Human Rights Commission. She's been part of the Human Rights Commission. She's worked on the Women's March. She's done a lot of things too that have really supported the community. And all of those things I think have really show what they bring to our town. So that's how I view this. And I just want our voters to come out and support our candidates and to come out and really support our county candidates too. And we've talked about the importance of our county candidates and how valuable Woodstock is for those candidates. You not only need to win Woodstock if you're going to win the county, you need to win Woodstock big, because we have 3,000 Democrats and 500 Republicans. So you got to get a lot of Democrats. You got to get those. You got to build that win on the Democrats in Woodstock to make it in the county.
Well, you know, I think in Woodstock, and I think the three candidates that you're talking about are very special.
Mm-hmm.
Because for one, Bill McKenna's been around forever.
He's been around
He
forever.
knows the community. He knows when somebody digs a hole in the ground what they're going to find.
Yep.
He, you know, there's not a lot of landscape that Bill McKenna does not know. And Bill McKenna is the type of person who can take his biases
Yeah.
and put them in a pocket and can ask people in the community, can ask decision makers, which way is this going?
Right.
And then when he figures out, you know, what's going to be the best, that's what he goes for.
Yeah.
It's not what is the cheapest. It's not what is this. What may be the cheapest. It's not, you know, it's not all these
Well,
other things. It's what the people want.
And it's not about what is politically expedient either
Right.
for him. It's about what is best for the town and what is best for the community. And
What
you know,
the people want.
what the people want, what they need. And he is connected with the community with all that he's done. He had hands-on training before he became the supervisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been there a long time. He understands what the job is. He does the job really well. He's devoted to that job.
Yeah.
So that's to me what matters most. And the thing that I know when I talk to Bill is he'll give me a straight answer.
Yeah.
He's going to tell me the truth. He's going to tell me whether I like it or not. He's going to tell me the truth of what's going on.
And he's going to give you a straight answer calmly.
Yes, he is.
He's not going to be, you know, octaves higher. So this, you have Bill McKenna, you have this type of personality.
Yeah.
Then we come over to candidate number 2, Laura Rickey.
Or Ricky.
Laura Rickey has her own talents,
Absolutely.
which are totally different from his,
Yep.
which brings a lot to the job. The two people together, 1 and 1, have a tendency to make 3.
Right.
Because she really tries, and sometimes it's interesting how she comes, how these different committees and things work. But she's really good at that.
Yeah, she's been on some very important committees. She's been on the zoning review committee. She's the chair of that. She's been on the housing oversight task force. She's a part of that. All of the things that she does, she takes so much time and energy out of her life
Yeah.
to be able to do all those things for the town.
Yes. And then, of course, we have Anula.
Anula. Mm-hmm.
And I am so happy with Anula because Anula is not a politician.
Not at all.
And
No.
and it's here you have all these politicians, and then we have an activist.
Yeah,
And that brings a whole other
absolutely.
a set of colors to the picture. And I think it's very important.
I agree, and I think, you know, if this election goes the way I think it's going to go, we'll actually have a majority female board, which we never had, and that'll be an interesting scenario too. So it's going to be, I think, a very diverse board, a very accomplished board. You know, Nuala has great experience in business, great experience in finance, and great experience as a human rights activist and as a activist in general that she brings to this. I think that's a key thing for us to have. So her abilities, her considerations, her who she is going to really make a big difference in this town. You know, I did not know her as well as I know, of course, Laura or Bill, because I haven't worked with her as much, but what she brings is going to be invaluable. The perspective she brings is going to be a different perspective, perhaps, than other people too, and a valuable perspective.
Yes. How is this translating these skills, these talents, because that's what they're bringing, is they're
Yeah.
bringing talents.
Yeah.
How do these talents make themselves known to the new residents or to the residents that are not immediately interested in, because there is a certain percentage of people that are just not going to worry about it until 2 weeks before the election.
That's correct.
Although the longer I live in Woodstock, I don't know. I'm getting to the point now where I'm not sure those people exist anymore. There may be some new ones that I haven't met, but everybody else knows 100% all whatever they're up to all the time. We all do have a political radar and sonar and hidden microphones and all kinds of other things.
Well, I think what that's going to bring to the board is very professional people who understand that we do have issues in Woodstock that need to be worked on, right? We do have the need for more affordable housing. We definitely have that. We do have the need for, better conditions for housing. And that's probably the biggest important thing that we have to do here. And we're working on that, and the town is working on that. And it's not easy to do. We've become a tourist town, right? Which has changed the dynamics a lot. And we've become a town that has a lot of Airbnbs, which has changed the dynamics a lot. We need to understand what it takes to have places that people who grew up here can live here. To have places where people who work in this town can live in this town.
Where are we going to find those places?
We have to do something different. That's why we're looking at changing the zoning laws, because the current zoning laws have gotten us into this trouble. They're not going to get us out of it. So we have to look at changing the zoning laws to encourage and to foster the building of affordable housing, to encourage and to foster additional housing without creating massive density. And one avenue of that is to make it easier to build an accessory dwelling unit. So, a small apartment within your house. That's part of the changing the laws that we're trying to do here too. And those are the things that these candidates have worked on and are supporting in order to allow more, we call them middle housing or more affordable housing, for people to be able to bring themselves in town, to be able to stay in town, for people to know that their housing situation is stable. That's what I think that's the most important thing we can work on here. And it's not just Woodstock that has this issue, right? The county has this issue. The county's put $15 million into a fund to try to solve the problem countywide. So it's a Woodstock is like kind of a microcosm of the county, but we're also, I think, the worst affected by the housing crisis because of who we are. So these candidates take this issue very seriously. They've examined it. They spent the time. They've read the proposals. They understand what we're trying to do with zoning and housing. And they are working with those committees to craft the law in a way that works, as opposed to throwing bricks or as opposed to throwing bombs.
I live downtown in Woodstock. And I have new neighbors every week.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Every weekend, every day. It's just
absolutely.
It's a whole new ballgame.
It's not that kind of a scenario detracts from the community, right? I mean, I happen to live in a neighborhood community where all my neighbors are all my neighbors. We don't have STRs where I happen to live, but that's not necessarily usual anymore, and we need to, in my opinion, be able to have neighbors that are consistent, people that you can go to if you have an issue or trouble, or just to hang out with, that are always there. And that's a change we need to come back to. And part of that is to look at the situation now and to change the laws to make that situation more applicable. clearly, I like to say about this is an Einstein thing, right? You can't expect to do the same thing over and over again and have different results.
Do you have any idea what the new residents want?
I think the new residents want the same thing. I think they want to be able to have a community here. That's why they're here. That's why they come up with their kids. I mean, I know a lot of young residents that are moving here with their kids and that have moved here during the pandemic, and then stayed because they love the area, they love what we offer here, but they also want the community. And we all know they want the schools to survive. And having the schools survive means having places for people and young families to be able to live. We're in danger, always in danger of losing our local elementary school. And that's because we do not have the population we used to have. So to encourage that population, encourage the schools to be able to survive, we need to make sure that we have housing for young families and for new families and for people who grow up here to be able to stay here and have their families here.
That you guys have a lot.
We do.
You have a lot to work with.
Yeah.
And that's just one.
That's just one.
What are 2, 3, and 4?
Well, I mean, 2, 3, and 4 is, we have the same microcosms. I mean, we're a microcosm of many things in the county, right? So we also have homelessness in town, right? We have homelessness in the area, and that's related to the housing. We need to look at that. We need to look at that from the countywide level too. We have, you drive down the street in Woodstock and you see homeless. You drive down the street in Kingston, you see more homeless. So we need to look at that and make sure that they have places to live and places to be. And that comes back to affordable housing, it comes back to housing in general, and it comes back to making sure that we understand how to get those people into housing. Because that's not always easy. And part of that then too is having housing that's accessible to employment if they work. Having housing in one spot, work another spot with no transportation between the two is another issue that we have. I was talking, again, this is more county than town, but I've talked to a friend who lives in Warsing who gives someone who lives in Warsing, works in Ulster, rides back and forth every day. And this person is homeless, and where she stays in shelters or in hotels that are rented by the county, she has to take everything with her every day.
Yes.
So you become a turtle. You have to take your whole house with you wherever you go and take it with you every day, back and forth. And that's not sustainable for people. So we need to work on that and make sure that gets done. And again, that's primarily county effort, but Woodstock has a small part in that. Of course, Woodstock, family of Woodstock was founded on that same principle. And that's where that whole organization is named after this town because of the values placed the values this town has around supporting homeless. And supporting people in need.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I really want to work on, and this is county legislature stuff too, is we have a huge opiate crisis still. Still people are dying. And we need to understand how to keep them alive, keep them in treatment, get them in treatment so that they can work through whatever it is that caused the addiction. There's usually a trauma behind addiction, to resolve that trauma and then work through that and recover from that addiction. So those kinds of things are really key to me and what I'm running for as a county legislator, but they're also part of what Woodstock needs to do too, needs to work with. And Woodstock in many ways is, and I'm proud of Woodstock because it is the origin of a lot of these kinds of issues and how to solve these issues and how to work with these issues, and the consciousness around these issues is oftentimes raised here first and then brought to other places. That's
very true. Family is the front line.
Absolutely.
They are the front line.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see the different departments. Family is just everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And to see how the different pieces work together for the benefit of not only the whole, but of the children and of the seniors and everybody. And
single parents, daycare, all the things that go into being able to have a life that supports yourself, supports your family, and supports, being able to accomplish things in your life. I mean, that's the challenge, right? If you're homeless, your life is around where do I stay tonight? How do you move forward when every single night you have to figure out where to stay tonight?
Well, of course, if you're homeless, it isn't like, where do I stay tonight?
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and the question is, where am I going to stay tonight, and how am I going to get from here to where I can be, where I can stay someplace tonight?
Right.
Because your dwelling begins at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You're kicked out, and you have to find the next place.
every
day. Absolutely.
every day.
Every day. And then while you're doing that, while you're wondering about where you're going to be, you can't think about work. You can't think about building a life for yourself because you're just surviving.
Well, but a lot of them do work.
They do. It's hard.
You know,
Yeah.
they schlep everything
Yeah.
that they've got,
Yeah.
plus the kids,
Yeah.
and they go to work, and then they go to the shelter at
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous thing, and you know, we're not the only one. I mean, you know, this homeless thing.
Oh, it's all over.
It's all over.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is everywhere. You can't just say, well, it's just Ulster County or it's just the Hudson Valley,
Right.
because it's not.
But definitely not. I mean, the city is running out of homeless shelters right now, right? For the first
Yeah.
time in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really, it's a tough time. And, you know, the economy has shifted a lot.
Yeah.
And that's something too that we have to realize and reflect on. How do we build an economy that works for people again? Because right now it's, you know, not exactly going where it has been.
So, what else is on your plate?
Wow, that's a lot. Let's see. I mean, between those things, I think that's a lot. I think that making sure that, you know, part of it too is when I talk about housing, right? Housing is always taken in the context of making sure that it's environmentally sensitive housing, making sure it's done in the right way. You know, we could create a lot of houses by cutting down all of our trees, right? We don't want to do that, right? We want to make sure that the housing is the appropriate scale, the appropriate size, the appropriate environmental awareness and sensitivity. So that too is something that clearly is really important to us, and making sure that we have all of that taken care of too. We have issues with what to do with our trash, with what to do with our plastics. You know, my wife is going through a plastics course that basically, whenever I hear about it, it's like, oh, this is not recyclable. This really isn't recyclable either. They claim it's recyclable, but it's not.
But it's not, yes.
It's not. And, you know, that's scary. All the stuff that we're putting out into the environment and destroying the environment. So that we need to deal with too. And
Well, you know, the thing about plastic, your wife is becoming aware of that and has taken a class.
Yes,
I did the same. I
absolutely.
didn't take the class, but I've been reading, and it's like, you know, with plastics, you just got to not do it.
you just gotta not do it. Absolutely.
And we keep thinking, oh, this can recycle. It doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
And then you go out to the dump,
Yeah.
and I go out there all the time, and I don't know what happens to all. You know,
I know.
I know that this is going to sound so stupid, but when I first came here, there was not one trash can in front of anybody's house. Not one. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was very different than the amount of trash that we throw away now is incredible.
Well, it isn't the amount of trash. I'm still throwing away the same amount of trash. It's just that we used to all go to the dump,
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And the dump was open 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And now it's open 3 days a
3
week.
days a week, and it's
Yes.
not even a dump; it's a transfer station. They
Yes.
take it away someplace else, and county
Right.
has the same issue. Right? All the county waste goes to Seneca, I believe it is.
Yes,
It drives 3 hours away in a big truck,
yes.
which gets dumped there, and then that's going to close someday, and the county's got to have someplace
Yes.
to put their trash. So that's a big issue too that's going to be coming up probably in the next 5 to 10 years. Really big issue that we need to solve.
Well, now you're on the Woodstock Democratic Committee, but you're also on a county.
County committee.
How does that work?
So the county committee, so the hierarchy is a state Democratic committee. Then under the state Democratic committee, there's county Democratic committees. And under the county Democratic committee is a town Democratic committee. So the county Democratic committee represents all of Ulster and works with the towns to help them with their elections. And the county focuses more on county-wide candidates and county-wide elections. And so they will work on the legislature elections, they will work on the DA's election, they'll work on the county executive election. And they support and provide services for the towns. We do education stuff for the town committee so that they know how to do things. We train them in how to use things like the voting database that we use, how to use things like file sharing to share files, how to create pamphlets, and we actually have helped create towns create pamphlets and flyers to inform their town of their candidates. So we do a lot of work to support the towns and to also support our candidates at the county level. So that's primarily that piece of it. And when we have state candidates like State Senator Hinchey or Assembly Member Shrestha, we work with them to make sure that they can help get out the vote too for them.
And you are a legislator?
I will be. I'm not yet.
You're running for
I'm
the
running for the
Can you talk about that so
Sure.
that people are not
confused.
don't know, right? So
So-
that they'll know when they're voting.
Absolutely. So John Heppener is our current county legislator. He's been legislator, I think, for 3 terms. He's retiring he must be 30. I'm not sure how old he is. He's a lot younger than me, but he's moving on to do different things. So I entered the race in the beginning of the year once I knew John was not going to run. And I happened to be unchallenged. I got lucky. No one else put their hands up to challenge me. So no primary for me. On November 7th, I'll be on the ballot for the county legislator for District 23. It used to be District 23 encapsulated all of Woodstock. With their districting last year, it's only now most of Woodstock. So it's Woodstock to the west of Xena Road, pretty much. The eastern part of that is part of a different district. And then I also represent the northern part of Hurley, which is Glenford and West Hurley. So that's the district. There's 23 legislators, and we work with the county executive to prepare and approve and update the budgets. That's kind of our main job as county legislators. And as I said, the election will be the 7th, along with everyone else, the county candidates, the legislative candidates, and the town candidates.
And what are some problems that you're facing in this new job that you're running for?
So again, it's the same thing as what I've talked about. It's housing, countywide housing, countywide homelessness, countywide opiate addiction, mental health services. Those things are there. And there's things that we need to figure out. There's $15 million that the county executive has put away for housing. We need to work on how to spend that money and how to use that money in the most effective way. There's work already done. The county does a great job at trying to work with the opiate addiction. The sheriff has a great program called Oracle working with it. But we need to keep looking at that and keep augmenting that and keep building on that. And then the county is actually the entity that deals with housing homelessness most. So when someone is homeless, the county provides a service to house that person overnight. They often contract with someone else, like family, to actually do the work, but the county is the one that pays that nightly rent.
Yes.
And that nightly rent is a lot.
Yes.
And it's a huge, huge budget out of the county.
Yes.
And, there was a issue, I'm going to say 6 months ago, with one of the places that we put, where we housed homeless, and that was the Roadway Inn. And County Executive Metzger went and inspected that and looked at that and saw how horrible the conditions were there. And I'm really happy she closed it down. She said, we're not going to put people there. And that forced them to upgrade and to fix their facility to be at least livable. And we need to keep looking at those things. Where are we housing the unhoused, and making sure that those places are livable, and more than livable, but actually a place that you can prosper as much as possible while you're still looking to resolve your situation of being homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So those are major issues that we're looking at and trying to resolve, and it's a challenge. Things have changed so much in our economy, and we need to come back to how do we build community, how do we build the connections that support people in their lives.
So actually, when you talk, I get the feeling that what you do in the Woodstock Democratic Committee here in Woodstock, and then what you do on the county level, is pretty much the same thing.
It pretty much is. I mean, it really is. It's.
So you now are going to have two jobs where you do the same thing, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And it comes back to supporting our citizens, supporting what we need, supporting.
One of the things that has always impressed me, and of course I've been out of touch because I've been doing other things in the last few years, but Ulster County is really good about getting money.
They have been good, yeah. Yeah.
The people that we have elected in the past have known how to get money.
Yeah.
And because of that, when you talk about these problems and you talk about finding solutions, in my mind, I think, okay, there's a chance.
There is a chance.
And another thing that I really like about the Democratic Committee, and on the Woodstock level and on the county level, is the fact that you care.
Absolutely. I think that's the origin, and that's why we do what we do. I mean, that's why you don't. Realistically, no one joins a Democratic Committee for any kind of glory, because it's a lot of work. And it's about caring, about wanting to make a difference. No one runs for legislature because, frankly, you don't make a lot of money. It's not worth it for the money, but it's worth it because you're going to make a difference in the county. You're going to make a difference in people's lives. And the same thing with the town board. People run for those things because they want to make a difference in people's lives. They want to make the town or the county or the state a better place for people to live and solve the problems that are impacting people's lives in a negative manner. That's why we do what we do. That's why we are every day out there doing something, one thing or another. The people on the committee are incredibly devoted to what they do. Amy Fraden, my co-chair, is an amazing, amazing person who devotes so much of her time and energy to the betterment of this town and doesn't look for anything other than just knowing that she has satisfaction of making things better.
Well, that's a very, very important thing.
Absolutely.
When we came here, and of course a lot of the people that are coming here now are coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
We came from the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Okay.
And the attitude there was to try to figure out how much you could shove down, get it downstream.
Yeah.
And here it's completely different. And Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia are 5 hours south.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have these large snowstorms every year.
Yeah.
And it is just amazing. Out come these pieces of equipment. I loved it. The first 2 or 3 years I was here, every time there was a snowstorm, it was like, oh boy, they're going to bring it out. Mm-hmm. I was like a kid, look at that big piece of equipment. Those things did not exist in the D.C. metro area.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We went one time 3 weeks without getting our mail.
I I was in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta during a 6-inch snowstorm. We lost power for a week, and
Yes.
we couldn't get out of the house.
Right.
They had one. I think they had one snowplow.
Yeah, and Washington D.C. at that time, we had a mayor that kept it quiet. But he only had one snow.
Yes.
You know, I mean that's okay, and so that's how it worked. But in New York State, it's different.
It is different.
And in New York State, we care for the residents and
Yeah.
we care for the people,
Yeah.
and it's an important thing.
Absolutely.
And so I am hoping that because we have so many new people in our community, that when they spend some time here, they too will feel like they are in an area where the government cares.
Absolutely, and I think that that's what they're feeling. I do feel, talking to some new residents, I think that they understand how much the government cares here. They understand what we want to do and to improve people's lives, and they want to be involved in that. Because when people move here, oftentimes they're not just moving here to live, to be here. They're moving here to live here, to establish this as their home and make this a place that supports everyone and supports people. I've seen that with a lot of the new people that have moved up, and it's like it's really encouraging to see all of that come in, and it's really exciting to see for me.
So you feel like that when you do these things and you get elected, that you've got an audience that's going to pay attention.
I think so. I mean, definitely do, because we know, people know what matters. People know when things are working and not working, and when things are being supported and not supported, and when we, you can see it in the signs, right? You can see it. You drive through Woodstock, you drive through the county, and people are always involved in what's important for them to make sure the community's character is positive, is supportive, and is about people.
So, what is something that a new resident in this area can do to feel like they're getting involved?
Well, you can come to the Woodstock Democratic Committee. We meet every second Wednesday at the community center. You can go to the town board meetings. You can start going to the other committee meetings. You can see what's happening. You can be involved with the library. You can be involved with, there's lots of areas to get involved, and we're always looking for people to work on committees and to do things, because there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to be involved with that. And then, families always looking for help too, as far as, if that's more to want to do, or be involved in starting programs to help recycle. There's so much that we can do as a community, and so much we can do individually, that just come and ask. Walk into the town offices and say, what can I do to volunteer? We'll find something.
Okay, now, can you say that again?
Yeah.
Say that again.
I mean, just walk into the Woodstock, town offices and talk to the town clerk and say, introduce yourself and say, what can I do to help? What can I do to volunteer? There's tons of boards, there's tons of places that we need people, there's tons of things that can be done, and get involved. Same thing, walk in the library, talk to the library director, say, what can I do for the library? There's always things that we need and we can have help with.
You have brought up the library. What is that situation?
So I'm also, of everything else, I'm also the president of the Woodstock Library Board.
Are you really?
I am. So
well,
yes.
Start talking.
Okay, so that situation is that we, as I'm sure you know, that we have purchased 10 Dixon Ave, which is the old Miller Howard building. It's 13,000 square feet. It's a building that was renovated, I think, 10 years ago. It's a really, really good shape building. We are working through the architectural changes and engineering changes and structural changes we need to make to the building to make it appropriate for a library. The biggest change, obviously, is to take out the offices and open up the space for books, open up the space for the library. And then structurally, it's built as an office building, which means it supports 60 pounds per square foot or about that. That's the minimum. For a library, we need to support 150 pounds per square foot because books are heavy. So there's some structural work to do there. That's what the planning is. We're toward the very, very end of the architectural changes that we're going to make to the building, designing what they are. And the engineering part is being done, and we will hopefully go to bid soon to start making those changes happen. And then once you go to bid, because we're a public entity, it must be a public bid. We must take the lowest qualified bidder to do the work. We'll get the work done, and then once that's all done, we'll move from where we are now into the new building. We've had a few events there, and it's been really, really amazing to see people come out there. We had an event in the summer, a music event to introduce the library to families. We gave, I think, 200 people tours through what the building was going to be and how we're going to change it. And it was phenomenal to see that you could park there. You could have kids, you could have a huge space where people are safe off the street. It's just a really, really significant change, and we can now build a library that has the space to provide the services that this town deserves. Those include rooms that can be signed out to have meetings in. That includes high-speed internet for people to be able to connect and do business stuff there. It includes much expanded stack space. It includes the ability to be able to be in the library and actually read while programs are going on someplace else in the library. Today, if there's a program going on in the library, you can't be there reading a book because there's only one big room.
For me, I've spent a lot of time in libraries in New York State.
Yeah.
And a library in New York State in a community is like the most wonderful building in town.
Yeah.
And they are really top heavy when it comes to internet and computers and being able to sit out on the lawn and use your computer because it's open, which I think is extremely important.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a center. When we move in that building, it'll become a center of the town. It'll be a place where people gather. It'll be a place where people meet each other. It'll be a place where people can work together and collaborate on projects. And it'll be a place where you can take your family and there's lawn space. They can hang out and read a book on the lawn. They can be in the children's area working with in a children's program while,
What about bathrooms?
We have 6 bathrooms in the new building, as opposed to 1 in the old one.
Are they luscious?
They're not like, they're good. They're good. They're not.
That's where libraries really are at.
Yeah, we have. I'm trying to think of the bathrooms. They're. I wouldn't say luscious, but they're accommodating. How about that? They're accommodating.
Because we are so short of bathrooms in Woodstock.
We are.
It's really. And then here you are down here, and then you got to walk all the way. And is it even open down there?
No, we can't. Not until we can get the construction done. So we'll give tours. I mean, if people want to take a tour, you can go to the library's website, and you can sign up for a tour of the new building, and we'll take you through it. Either myself or Ivy Cocker, the library director, will take you on a tour of the new library and show you how we're going to change it and what's going to be available and what we'll be able to do in the future that we can't do now. And I think that's the most exciting part, is so many things we can do in the future that we just can't do now to provide services for the community.
Yeah.
So.
For me, you got to have books, got to have computers,
got
to have internet, got to have bathrooms.
Got those. Got all those. Plus, we have children's space. We have children's program space. We have gatherings. We have gathering area space. We have meeting rooms. We'll have book drop-off centers or book drop-off windows, and then places to sit and read.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
How are people going to get from here out there?
Well, we're looking to talk to the county, and I'm, as a county legislator, I can push it even more to make sure that we have bus routes. You know, and right now UCAT's free, so a bus route out there would be free.
Listen, we just had we've got 5 minutes left. Isn't that amazing? Always when we have this program, it's like what happened to the time?
I know.
And you were just getting me excited to talk about
The library.
And I want to take this 5 minutes to thank Ellen. Ellen has been here for decades. And we did without Ellen last week, and I suffered from withdrawal. This community suffered from withdrawal. People that I didn't even know called me up and said, "What happened?" So thank you so much, Ellen. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And you know what? That's what we do. We appreciate Ellen as we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much.
Because you run for office, you work, it's great.
Thank you very much.
Listen, we got 5 minutes. What would you like to say in 5 minutes?
I'd just like to say that I think that we in Woodstock, the reason that I live here, that my family lives here, is that we love this area. We love what we have. We love what the Catskills and this part of New York bring to us. We love the ability to have a community here. We love the trees. We love the environment. And we're going to have to, we want to keep all that, right? But we also want to make sure it's accessible for other people to be here too. And that's where we need to have more housing that's affordable for people. We need to make sure that our kids, as they grow up, can stay here if they want to stay here, and instead of having to move away. So those are the things that I think we are focused on. That's what I believe the candidates that are running on the Democratic committee and Democratic ticket are supporting. That's what we want to accomplish, is keep the culture and the nature of this town as it is, while expanding the availability of people to be here and to stay here and to have families here. So that's what I think our job is, our mission is, and our goal is. And I feel strongly that the candidates that won the primary and have the Democratic label next to them will be able to do that for this town. So please come out, please vote. I think some people always get discouraged about voting because my vote doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. And voting is the most important thing we can do in a democracy, to show our involvement and to keep us involved with what's going on in town.
I think that's so important. And we just touched on jobs.
Yeah.
We need to come back and just talk about jobs.
Absolutely.
That's a huge deal.
It is. Absolutely.
We're going to have to ask you back. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was a
You're quite
wonderful
welcome.
hour. I love having politics.
There you go.
It was great. We went
I
back.
love talking politics.
Yes. So it was great. Thank you again, Miss Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.